What's up? Welcome back to the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show with Wisk and Kev. We're coming to you live on Saturday night from the Salisbury Center Studios in Manassas, Virginia.
Always a good Saturday, man. Yes. Always good. And a great Saturday night that we have ahead of us tonight.
We do. It's a great night of live music. We've got the Glam Slam Metal Tour featuring Enough's Enough, the Choir Boys, and Bad Marriage. And joining us in the studio, we have the great pleasure of chatting with Mr. Chips Enough from Enough's Enough.
Chips Enough. Yeah. Made it in today.
Yeah, can we smoke pot in here, guys?
It'll match the green.
Yes.
We're set in green, so...
Yeah, very nice aesthetics in here. I love the little, what would you call that? Oralex on the walls. And I don't see any drinks or ashtrays or anything, but that's okay.
There's some monsters around.
Yeah.
That's the sponsor.
Yep.
So
what kind of drink would you like?
All right.
I think I'm pretty good right now, Lou, but maybe later on I'll have a little cocktail with you. I'm not a big drinker, although I love our fans because they drink their asses off. But for me, when I'm on tour, especially when I'm double dipping because I'm playing bass with the London Choir Boys and then of course singing and playing with Enough's Enough. So call me a six-trick pony. I'm out there with the fans all night. I'm driving the vehicles. I'm booking the hotel rooms. I'm really doing a lot of stuff with my guys are busy too as well. So it's one of those kind of tours where very challenging.
Yeah.
But this Glam Slam Metal Tour is a great package. I was just I did Eddie Trunk's show a couple weeks ago on Sirius XM.
That's nice.
Outside of my show, I'm on Dash Radio every week with Snoop Dogg and the Kardashians. So it's a big show.
Yeah.
And I've been telling everybody about this tour, and most people are saying that's one of the better deals where you get bands that had hit songs on MTV, tour around the country, done the big shows, the Howard Sterns, the David Lettermans, all those kind of things that we all do in the beginning of our careers. And here we are still out there playing for a nice, reasonably priced ticket. You want to go see the big shows, the Motley Crues and the Def Leppard and stuff. Nothing wrong. Those are great shows. There's nothing about it.
Yeah.
But you're going to pay a Brinks truck full of money. And this one, you're going to save dough. You're going to hear all the hits that you heard on MTV, all on the radio, and all the bands, all the guys right in the flesh right there. Very easily accessible. No $700 or $1,000 meet and greets. And it's a really good celebration, I think. And it's a great deal. And I'm proud to be on this tour, still going after all these years.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're bringing that up, and even like you added a lot of detail to me in the heavy lift that you are doing that we notice. When we, like seeing this tour coming in, seeing the range of touring that you have done. Like, how do you keep up all that energy with everything that you just described? Not only just playing, but all of those other side activities that you're involved in.
I believe that luck is when preparation meets opportunity, or it's the resin of design. My drummer, Daniel Benjamin Hill, he does a lot of social media along with Tori Stoffregan, my guitar player. And the other guitar player, Jason Camino, who was formerly with the band Nelson, he does a lot of the merchandise stuff. Everything's in-house. We try to be self-sufficient and do everything on our own. Yeah. The inmates are running the asylum at this point in our career right now. Got a great record company with Frontiers over in Italy, and then we also have our catalog with Cleopatra Records. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we got two good labels that are really behind the band and helping us a lot. Brian Pereira is fantastic, gives us merchandise so we can go out there and make sure we whet the beak of all of our fans that want to come out there. And they're diehard fans.
Sure.
They've been following Enough's Snuff for all these years. So between the whole team working together, that really helps a lot. And I got a great tour manager. His name's Mike Beasley. He works with Junkyard and the Choir Boys as well.
Yeah.
And together, we just make it work. We book our own hotel rooms, hustle around the country. We're not traveling in a bus like in the old days with an ounce of cocaine and a bunch of Jack Daniels. Very focused. We get in a little Oscar Mayer wiener wagon. We turn on the radio and we listen to tunes and drive 5-6 hours a day and listen. The fans are the most important thing to us. That's what we care about. Want to get out there, and we want to be well rested and give the fans a great show. And I think that every night we've been nailing it. Not to sound unmodest, it's been a really good tour though, and all the rock stars are coming out to the shows. All our old friends, and all the journalists and colleagues from the old days.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to get back together again and see all those old familiar faces because we're not here for a long time,
Yeah, right. Amen to that, man. Amen.
And so you mentioned last night you were in Jersey, and tonight you're here in Manassas here at the Salisbury Center.
Yep.
So welcome to Manassas and the Salisbury Center.
Appreciate it. A couple of years ago, we were here with Faster Pussycat over at that Tally Ho place.
Sure.
In Lethbridge, and I was talking to your boys about it, and that was a great show.
It was.
We were
there.
there. Kevin and I were there.
Yeah.
Love that show.
Yeah, that was a fun little tour. Pussycat had the big, huge tour bus. We were traveling in the Oscar Mayer Wiener wagon.
Yeah.
Hanging out with Danny every single night, and of course, Tammy was great to us.
Yep.
We go back a long ways. I think the wave of the future for rock concerts is consolidation, getting all the bands together. And it's not going to be one band. It's not Taylor Swift all by herself, okay?
Sure.
It's not going to be bands like, Harry Styles. There's going to be 2 or 3 bands with it, because that brings more joy to the fans and more bang for the buck. It makes much more sense to consolidate. And I was hanging out with the guys in Live Nation. They go, yeah, Chip, you got to get 3-4 bands out there to make these tours happen. And for the last 4 or 5 years, it's been us out with Ace Frehley or Jack Russell's Great White, the Dead Daisies, and we just got off tour. We were just out in November and December with Skid Row over in Europe, and very well attended gigs, playing those O2 Academies and those Riches, those great rooms, KKs and Wolverhampton. It's just a lovely country in the UK, and we also did Scotland as well. And then we finished up and we came back to the States and did the Rock Island Fest with 38 Special and Adler from Guns N' Roses, who I used to play with a long time ago, along with a list of other great bands. And Quiet Rider was on that bill. And then from there we went to Australia, and we've been touring nonstop since January of 2023. So nothing's going to stop this choo-choo train. There's still some coal left in.
Well, and it's great to have live music back and bands touring, performing. Certainly missed that for a couple of years. So.
Right. Now, where we were 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That was brutal 3 years ago.
Oh, it was terrible. I was just talking to Lou about how I was reading Classic Rock magazine, and there's over 75 tours happening right now. And there's some really good ones besides this Glam Slam Metal tour with Enough's Enough and the Choir Boys and Bad Marriage by, coincidentally, Bad Marriage has the guitar player that used to play with Tesla. It's great too. The guy shows up, he's got joints in his mouth every day. He always shares it. Really a wonderful guy. But you got Pussycats out there on tour right now.
Yeah.
And for the smaller tours, Kiefer's out there with Winger and John Corabi, and that's a tour that's doing very well. People are going out there and flocking. All shows are jam packed every night. And then you got Rod Stewart and Cheap Trick out there. Of course, you got the Stadium tour, which is Def Leppard and Motley Crue, and I think Alice Cooper's doing a bunch of dates with them as well. Kiss is out there right now with Skid Row doing some dates. Yeah. If you look on the schedule of any of your favorite bands out there, most of them are touring right now. So we've gotten back in the thick of things after that whole shutdown, and I'm just happy that we're all celebrating now and getting back out there and playing shows and bringing the music to the fans all around the country, because there's a lot of rock and rollers that just hail what's going on in radio, except for the rock stations. They're not embracing it. They almost look at it like it's a hobby, so to speak. And it's not, because when you look at the concert schedules out there, people are going out and paying money to see rock shows. They still believe in that lifestyle. Right. And I think that's fantastic. I like, if I'm always just a small little footnote, I'm happy about that.
Chip, man, listening to you, you are passionate and you are an aficionado and you are driven. Where do you think that comes from?
Probably my mother and father. I live in the south side of Chicago. My dad worked at U.S. Steel as a construction engineer. My mom was a saleswoman. She worked with Halston and all these big places because she could talk a dog off a meat truck, was a great salesman. Yeah. And I think I got it from them. And I played baseball in the early days when enough stuff took off. There was no story on the band. None of us really did anything. Derek Frigo was known as a guy who played in a band called Le Mans. My brother Donnie, he was a construction guy. Yeah. Vicky Fox played in a band called Lickety Split, but nobody had a history except me a little bit. I played baseball. So I was a pitcher. I went to Brother Rice High School. I tried out for the Cincinnati Reds, Kansas City Royals, Milwaukee Brewers, Chicago White Sox. Didn't pitch fast enough, but I think I took some of those elements from playing sports and bring them to fruition when it came to putting together a rock band. Yeah. I joined a band right after high school, a band called Degeneration. It was a punk band. They never put any records out, but we made records. We just couldn't get a deal. And our first gigs were opening for the Grateful Dead and Boss Gags. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I opened for Van Halen, playing parties with Van Halen, with Degeneration.
Awesome.
And we worked our way around the country, and that band eventually fizzled out because of substance abuse and promiscuity, of course. And I went back home from Los Angeles with my tail between my legs, and I got the experience of seeing bands like Motley Crue playing the Whiskey and all those Starland, all those small places in Los Angeles. And I put together a band. I said, you know what? I've done it like this. I've tried it for years. Now I'm going to put together my own band. I put together Enough's Enough, and it took about, that was like 1983, 84. I was a young little kid. And in 1988, in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, we were discovered by Doc McGee while Skid Row was making their first record. Okay. And Doc McGee, who now manages Just Kiss, but at the time he had...
he had Motley.
Bon Jovi.
That's right, and Scorpions. And he says, Chip, I got 3 cassette tapes in my car. Shows you how old I am. And
we're there.
People
right
still,
there with you.
People still got. By the way, cassettes are coming back. So he goes, 2 of them are your band. I said, oh, Doc, man, thanks so much. Really appreciate any help we can get. And I didn't know much about Doc McGee, to be honest with you. 2 weeks later, a guy named Derek Shulman from Atco Atlantic Records called. He says he wanted to see us. He wanted us to showcase for him. Derek Shulman was a guy who found and discovered Cinderella and Bon Jovi, signed him over a polygram, and they gave him his own imprint, which is over at Atlantic Records called Atco Records. They had bands like Bee Gees and Mountain and stuff like that. Great bands, by the way. And he came down to Chicago to a rehearsal spot called Dress Rehearsal with Don and Monica Graylis. They owned the place, and everybody rehearsed there, from Smashing Pumpkins to the Veruca Salt. And he walked in there, and it was just chicks and guys hanging out, smoking dope and drinking, and we were out of control doing blow. I wasn't doing blow, but everybody else was. And we played one song, and my guitar player broke a string, and we said to Derek Shulman, the president, we said, let us know if he blew the deal, we'll fire him right now. And he laughed. And we played one more song, and I go, you've heard enough, haven't you? He goes, I certainly have. We thought that was it, and then we'd keep going. And the next day, they sent us a facsimile for a $250,000 deal to make our first record.
Excellent.
And that's how everything started for us. And then after that first record came out, we went down to MTV, and one of the guys down there, a guy named Rick Krim, he's still my buddy to this day, and him and Abby Conowitz and Les Garland agreed to play our first video, which was the song New Thing, and you couldn't stop the choo-choo train then. We got a tour bus, went on tour. First tour was the Badlands with Jake Healy and Ray Gillen.
We were just talking about Badlands last night.
Eric Singer. Eric Singer, Jason playing bass. Eric Singer, who was not in Kiss yet, of course. And we played nothing but places about the size of this venue right here. And everyone was completely jam-packed, sold out. And I'm not saying that we were the big band there, because we were the support band of that tour, but a lot of people came out and see Enough Stuff because we had the videos and we were colorful and flamboyant, and people just loved that. It was really celebrating rock. And we just got laid every single city we went to, and just everything was for free. We had such a great time on that tour, and all the rock stars would come out. The guys in Cheap Trick would hang out with us. Dweezil Zappa would come out, and all these different bands would come to our sessions and see the band, or come see us live and sit in with us. So really a celebration. That took off. That record did really well for us, and I've been chasing the carrot ever since, guys.
No doubt. Well, so that guy sitting out there is the biggest Badlands fan I think I know.
Listen,
for sure.
Lou, they were so great. You know what? Quick little story. Maybe people have heard this before because I've done thousands of interviews, but on that tour, Ray Gillen, he felt down his luck on it. He was like tired for every single day. He felt he had a little bit of a bug. So my mom gave me, before the tour, she gave me tetracycline and erythromycin because I'm allergic to penicillin. And she goes, here, honey, in case you guys get anything on the road. And I didn't know what it was for. Anybody gets sick, just take these pills, and don't drink with it because it's an antibiotic and you can't drink any alcohol with it or it'll counteract it. So I was giving Ray Gillen antibiotics every single day, tetracycline and erythromycin. And it's for if you catch the clap or anything. That's what it's for. But we didn't know that. My mom didn't want to use that kind of language, old-fashioned Polish mother. So I was giving him pills every single day, and I was going through them like you wouldn't believe. Like he was eating them like fucking chiclets. And I go, oh, bro, you got to stop. You got to be careful because you can't be drinking beer with this stuff.
Yeah.
And then we'd run out of them. I'd call my mom. I go, can we get some more of those little pilly poos? She was like a pharmacy. She goes, yeah, honey, I'll mail them out to you guys where you're staying. So I had all these pills, and then I remember Jake Lee going, what are you giving him? I go, these little pills. He goes, well, keep giving them to him. You know? Jake Lee was like the enabler too. And he was so great on the tour to me. He was so nice because his girlfriend had a baby. He had his first daughter. And so we were talking. And I go, I got a daughter too. Her name's Tara. And she's 1 year old. And he goes, yeah. And he's telling me about his little daughter. So we bonded over our children on the tour.
Yeah.
And we didn't hang out a lot because both bands were big. We were both doing tons of interviews. We were really busy hawking our record, really just working hard to make sure we can get it to make it to the next city. Because and we were both going in considerable debt, by the way, because we were both in tour buses, traveling all around. But that tour was really successful because our agent at the time, a guy named Locke Buchanan over at Premiere, says, Chip, 99% of the shows are completely sold out. You don't hear about that nowadays.
Right.
It's so difficult because there's so much out where it's too much product, not enough demand nowadays.
Right.
But that tour was really the catalyst for me, where I watched and said to myself, I know what to do and what not to do. Forget the touch of cycle. Be careful with your promiscuity. I mean, we were smothered like a bum on a bologna sandwich with Kenny Trim.
Yeah.
They would come out every single night and they were scantily clad and they were dancing around. Totally politically incorrect in today's day and age. But it was a celebration. We're all hanging out.
Right.
And, we didn't call them groupies. We call them Band-Aids. And they were coming out and hanging out with the bands. Right. And I know guy Band-Aids, guy groupies out there. So what's the difference? We're all hanging out together. Doesn't mean you're sleeping together, but we did find ourselves in some questionable positions. No pun intended. But the tour turned out to be very good for both bands because both albums went gold and we were able to travel around and elevate ourselves. So after those tours, we were able to go on stadium tours and play sheds and arenas and opening for bands like Skid Row and Guns N' Roses and Def Leppard, etc.
Yeah. And so that was the late 80s and had a couple hits off of that album were on MTV.
Yep.
And then talk about, I mean, you've had released 20 albums, so a lot of history there.
Yes. I'm very lucky that I've put out all those records because my grandfather said, you sure you want to do this, son? I go, yeah. Didn't make it in baseball. He says, the average life expectancy of any band is a few years. And I thought, well, maybe he's right there. And he goes, you should have a B plan. And I thought, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to play records. I'm going to make music. I'm going to make a living on this. I'm not going to let you guys down. And we really very strong. We toured substantially until maybe 2001, 2002, where I was at home in my little house and I had an apartment in Beverly Hills, Chicago. And I got a phone call from Poison. They said, we're going on tour. And there was a guy from CAA that called us, one of the old agents, and he offered us the Poison, Warrant, Quiet Riot, Enough's Enough tour. They call it the Glam Slam Metal Jam tour, which is this tour's extension of that. And we went out and played nothing but arenas, and that put us back into the game again. And after that, we found ourselves, we couldn't get any work. We'd play clubs, and we'd probably do 75, 100 shows a year, but the band was in disarray. Our management company, which at that time was Herbie Herbert, who managed Journey and all the big bands, and God rest his soul, he passed away last year, but Herbie was the catalyst that kept the band going, kept us giving us deals, and he goes, unfortunately the band's unmanageable right now, but I'm going to help you one more time, and he got us a couple deals with Japan and with the United States, where we were able to get some money and get out of our considerable debt that was occurred. But the black cloud was following over us, guys, and Enough Snuff was in big trouble, and really it's a blessing from above that we were able to keep going. Donnie left the band in 2013. He left the band in 2004, and he left the band again in 2007 and came back. And then 2013, he said, that's it. I've got health issues. I'm not into doing long tours anymore where, it takes too much out of me. And I'm done. I'm just going to do a solo thing. I said, great. And just something, the guys in the band basically said, why don't you just sing the song, Chips? You wrote the songs with them, you produced those records. You should just try to move forward. And I talked to Donnie about it too, and Donnie mentioned, he says, if you're going to move forward with Enough's Enough, you should sing the songs, because when you get to step in the front of the stage, people are going to see you and they're going to go, that's Enough's Enough. And that's what I've done. I took his word for 2015. I started actually working all the time, doing the big shows, M3 Festival, Baltimore, and shows all around the country. And after a little while, I found my legs. I stayed away from the blow, stayed away from hanging out with the trim all night in the hotel rooms, and just try to get some sleep and enjoy these gigs and give the best performance possible. The fans deserve it. Stay in shape. It's important and very important.
Yeah.
Steven Tyler told me we have an obligation to all the fans out there to keep yourself in good shape and don't get fat.
Right.
And nothing wrong with fat people. I'm not shaming anybody.
Thank God.
But if you come out thin and with a look, you should stay that way. Look at Tyler now.
Right. Absolutely.
By the way, they're getting ready to go out with Black Crowes. That's going to be a huge tour.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I think that there's a responsibility to all musicians to try to keep it together and stay in good shape. And I've done that, and here we are now in 2023. We've put out 4 albums, I should say, in the last year and a half, with our rarities and demo record on Cleopatra, 4 LPs, and then Finer Than Sin record, which is on Frontiers right now. So folks, check out enoughsenough.com and you'll see all those great records that we put out through the years with great musicians like Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater playing with us, and the guys from Cheap Trick and Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins. If we suck, those guys aren't coming down to play with us. It's really a good band, you guys.
Of course.
And the proof is in the pudding at the end of the day. If you like the music, go see the band live. Support your favorite bands, whether it's Greta Van Fleet, Dirty Honey, Rival Sons, Vintage Trouble, the Struts. There's some great new bands out there.
Chip, we're with you, brother, because we're witnesses. We've witnessed you on multiple occasions.
Yep,
so we were like live verification of that right now. And by the way, like, how are you missing sound check? Like, as you're double dipping into bass for both bands, like you have a different bassist down there right now.
Yeah, it's probably my guitar tech. His name is Beasley, and he plays bass with other guys too. But listen, if you listen in the background, they don't sound as good. I'm needed for sure, but
they gave you a break. They gave you a break.
I like it. That's important, I think, guys. I earned it. I didn't know I was going to double dip on this tour. The London Choir Boys called me. The manager called and says, "Hey, can you come out and on this tour and play bass with us?" I said, I probably could do that, because the London Choir Boys, by the way, are in the studio right before they went on this tour. They were in a studio with Joe Elliott from Def Leppard and Josh from Debauchery. So they sent me the tracks. They said, "Can you play bass on some of these songs?" So I probably played in a half dozen songs on their new record. It's not out yet. And I thought, this is pretty cool. And I think they're going to get Anger Anderson too from Rose Tattoo to play on the record as well.
Nice, very nice.
So then when they got the tour, they said, Chip, we'd love you to consider playing bass on it. I thought, man, it's really challenging to be able to do something like that, 30-something songs every single night, and I got to do all the interviews. I got to drive the van. I got to really make myself available. But I thought,
do you have to get food? Do you have to run food too?
I don't run any food. I'm not doing that. I'm a singer in the band. I try to help as much as I can, guys. And this, by the way, these guys are fabulous. The London Choir Boys are basically the baking band for they're the Down and Outs. The Down and Outs is Joe Elliott from Def Leppard's other band. When he's not on tour with Def Leppard, he plays hooky and puts this other band together, which does like Bowie songs and Mott the Hoople and originals. So these guys are fabulous musicians. Everything's tuned down. It's like Rolling Stones tuning. They sound like Faces meets the Black Crowes, except they were out before the Black Crowes. Black Crowes, when they first came out, the Black Crowes, they looked at the London Choir Boys as a big inspiration, or they loved that band. Then the Black Crowes took off, and you don't hear a damn thing about them guys talking about the London Choir Boys, who were first doing it all.
Well,
and I love the Black Crowes, don't get me wrong. You know, let's give credit where credit's due. These guys came out in the mid-'80s. Black Crowes came out like, late 80s, around the same time as Enough's Enough. And sometimes, these guys, they get out there, they have some success, they sell some records, and they have selective memory. Because this is the real guys. These guys are the real McCoy, okay? You'll hear tonight, by the way.
Yeah, and for those that are watching and listening to the program, come on out tonight if you don't already have tickets. Get out here to the Salisbury Center. It's going to be a great show. Yeah,
this will be the first and last time this happens with these bands like this together. Bad Marriage with Tommy from Tesla. The London Choir Boys, which I said earlier, is like Joe Elliott from Def Leppard's backing band, and Enough's Enough with 20 albums out, playing all the hits, Fly, Michelle, New Thing, Baby Loves You, and all the Beatles songs that are on our last record called Hard Rock Night. So will this happen again? Probably not with this package.
Yeah.
It's a once in a lifetime. We're making history, I think, together. Whether it's, it's not a stadium gig, but it's a good little venue. Probably holds, 800 to 1,000 people. If we can get half this place filled up with rock and rollers, and bring some trim here too, because we still we love to look at the menu. We love our women. Women are our superiors, okay? But the guys will come out tonight and they want to hear a rock band that's playing live, 100% live and real, guys.
Right.
It's a real rock show. It's not like it's not going to see one of these bands out there where they just press a little button and the guys are dancing around and stuff. It's guys singing and playing, and maybe a little technology there, but who cares who drives the bus? Let's get to the picnic.
Chip, you're talking about like the groupings, like just not only of you guys on this tour, but just in general, like you've just named a lot of acts, and all that conversation you just had. I felt like, I don't know, and I know Kevin and I, we've talked about this with Enough's Enough specifically. With you guys coming out, even with your first album, it was almost hard to categorize, I feel, like Enough's Enough, and that the music that you were putting out as just even calling it what would have been traditional glam metal in the 80s. How do you feel about that? Like, where do you guys see yourself? And even in the progression of the 20 albums that you guys have put out, how would you categorize your music and your sound?
I think we were alternative before the word alternative came in, guys. And you're right. Journalists grabbed onto the band after the rock stars grabbed on and said, these guys are real McCoy, almost like a Jellyfish type band when they came out. No one could categorize it. Is it pop? Is it rock? What is it?
Right.
Same thing with Enough Stuff. We came out, we did a solid rock record. We didn't sound like Kiss or Motley Crue or Def Leppard or Poison or Cheap Trick. Well, we a little bit like Cheap Trick, because it's a cross of pop and rock and a little bit of heaviness to it as well. But people were listening with their eyes instead of their ears back then. So the rock stars and the musicians that heard Enough Stuff, they hailed us, but normal people, they only watched it on MTV and seen the colorful and flamboyant and all the trim that was in the videos and us strutting around, pushing everything over to one side, and they thought, oh, this is interesting right here. What is this about? I got to go see these guys live. But you come out and see the shows, and you go, that's a real rock band. Yeah, we got long hair. Yeah, we dress a little bit colorfully, but we're just like you are. We went to high school, graduated. We drive Mustangs and convertible cars, and some of us drive the Cadillacs, and to me it's the old Escalade doing 130 miles an hour down the expressway with no miles per hour. There's no stop signs there. So I think there's a reckless abandonment to Enough Snuff, and that's special. And just like those other bands that are out there I mentioned earlier, we all carry ourselves in a certain way. And I think that at first people were listening with their eyes instead of their ears. But eventually it caught on, and we sold some records, and we were able to navigate these waters. And we're all swimming in the same lake.
Yeah. So I mean, that's interesting, and I want to discuss. So on Blabbermouth recently, Stephen Pearcy came out and talked about, a lot of folks have said grunge is what ended up killing metal, hair metal per se. And you guys have a unique sound. The Choir Boys definitely have a very unique sound, and so do Bad Marriage. So, Stephen Pearcy was commenting that it wasn't necessarily grunge that killed hair metal and metal in general, but the lack of bands that were unique. There were a lot of bands that were coming out during the late 80s, early 90s that looked like the other bands that were popular, didn't have anything original to say, didn't have an original sound. What is your thoughts in that whole transition, late 80s, early 90s?
I believe that Stephen Pearcy's, he makes a good point right there. I don't think grunge killed anything. I think it was time for a change of the guard. Some of these bands that went away, maybe rightly so they did, because they had the run. We went through it. The Motley Crues and the Poisons and the Cheap Tricks and the bands that were the great bands that were out there, they kept going. They took a little break. That's all they did, because it was all put together strategically, guys. there was the powers that be at MTV, so we need a new kind of style of music to come in there. And even a Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Mudhoney, Nirvana. It was all put together those bands are great bands, by the way. I love Alice in Chains, Lane Staley, he was a fabulous singer. Jerry Cantrell, my good buddy. We do rock and roll fantasy camps in Florida together in Los Angeles. Those are good cats, I think it was time maybe for a little bit of a change. But when you look at the bands we just talked about just now, all those bands are selling out stadiums and sheds and arenas, okay? They really are. Mm-hmm. The Motley Crues didn't go away. They stayed out there. They were able to hang in there for somehow. Who knows how they did it?
Right.
It's a miracle from above. The good Lord works in mysterious ways. A lot of these bands were able to withstand the punishment and continue to move on, and they do better than the bands that I just mentioned to you in a lot of ways. Of course, Pearl Jam, massive band. They got tons of MTV support, and they have a smart organization that knows when to go out and tour, and they really cater to their fans. And the same thing with Alice in Chains. 300 million streams on Spotify for those guys. That's a lot of fans, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing a lot of chippy poos there, but the shows, they make a Brinks truck,
Yeah.
and they were able to sell their merchandise every single night, and they put records out, and they're still solid.
Yeah.
It's a real good band. So some of these bands are able to withstand the punishment. Other ones couldn't do it, and I think for us, we were just one of those bands that we never stopped working. We just kept playing and kept putting out records. And if you look at our catalog of material, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I'm really proud of our accomplishments. 20 albums. No bands have that. None of those bands. Maybe Cheap Trick does because they've been out quite a long time, but we've surpassed all those bands when it comes to records. And if it was shitty records, if there were songs that weren't happening, if we just didn't have a foothold on what was going on, then I say, okay, well, you just put the records out. Maybe there was one song in each record, but it's not like that. Because how do I know? Because of the great bands, they sit and they tell me, you guys are amazing with your songs you come up with. How do you come up with them? I go, there's a lot of fodder out there to write about in this world right now. So to be able to put these records out is really special. It's a miracle. And it's all songs about everyday experiences that we went through as a band, and perhaps you have as a fan as well. Listening to music, you went through the same things and go, I remember first time I got laid, first time I smoked a joint, first time I got fired from my job, first time I went through a death in the family. And we write about the songs that we know about and the different observations that go through. These songs are like they're like little embryos, our first children, and it's the beginning of a relationship, and we share them with you guys, and we're not going to even turn you on to the songs unless they trip our trigger first.
So with all of that hustle and that drive and that work and the 20 albums, when did you find time to write them? Like, I'm thinking about you, like tonight even, but between two bands.
I got a phone. I mean, technology is pretty strong. So you come up with an idea, somebody's smoking a joint and they put it in the ashtray, or having a lipstick on a glass. There's something that's going to trip your trigger. And you go, it's a good idea. Maybe you guys talk, and maybe Luce gives me a certain metaphor. And I go, hey, thanks. And I just, put it on my phone.
I want credit for that.
Keep credit. You're not getting a damn thing out of there, okay? So I think that's what it's all about. That's being creative. That's what a lot of these bands out there, they write the same way. They really do. The Beatles wrote like that.
Sure.
They found something and they seen it, and they goes, hey, there's some substance right here. I want to put some music and a melody line behind this. And that's what they do. That's what the songs are all about. And it's going to get real tricky in the future because you got AI.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I've always thought that they were like, Enough's Enough was like, to me, a rock Beatles.
Yeah.
With all the harmonies and the sort of look and feel, and just like the trippy
right
videos and all that stuff. But the harmonies and just the full sound always reminded me of like a rock and roll Beatles.
Well, we grew up around that kind of stuff. We always loved the English stuff across the pond. So when we grew up, we listened to, our parents would have like Beatle records and Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Mott the Hoople, Queen. And we always loved those kind of bands. Everything, Bowie, the Squeeze. Love the stuff that was Sex Pistols. We love stuff across the pond. Those guys took chances. They're really, really good. And obviously our stuff came out way before Oasis. We've been together for a long time.
Sure.
And bands like Oasis came out. And I remember there was a video on YouTube of Oasis doing a new thing by Enough Stuff. I thought, these guys know about our music for sure. And they're paying they're paying respect to us, which is
Right.
it's such an honor, you guys.
Right.
But you are what you eat at the end of the day, Lou, and that's what we are. We listen to that kind of stuff, and
Sure.
and that was what set the tone for our band's sound. I think we weren't looking it over what was happening on MTV with like bands I mentioned earlier. It was trying to come up with something new and innovative, and something that was really part of our template of as a band. Starting off with songs that were strong with good storyboards and played aggressively. That was important. Okay, you
Yeah.
listen to those old Beatle records, man. Those guys took chances, but they were going over Dalai Lama and the Mahavishnu and hanging out all these different kind of people and experimenting over in India and doing hashish and pot all day and the LSD and the mushrooms. And I get it why they did that, because songs come in that way. In our early Enough Snuff days, we were pro-experimentalists too, and you come up with great ideas and great songs. It's the truth. And I'm not pushing drugs, folks. I'm saying that sometimes when you go outside your box, you'll find some good little, wonderful little things to eat.
Yeah.
Sure.
Very cool.
I also feel like you guys and Saigon Kick are two bands that sort of straddled the rock and the alternative, and you
Right.
kind of got screwed with that changeover from grunge, because you were more alternative than most of the rock bands that were getting pushed out.
Right.
Same
Yeah.
with Saigon Kick.
Right.
But you were almost too early. If you guys would have come out like in '92, I bet you guys would have hit with that alternative sound as much as
Perhaps.
Saigon Kick
It's
too.
funny you said that too, Lou, because on the way in here, we were listening to Saigon Kick. Honest to God, I'm not
Love
making
those
this up.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, but then we were also listening to Crack the Sky and Mott the Hoople and Cheap Trick, and so we were mixing up a little Joe Satriani on the way in. So it's a real potpourri of different kind of bands that we listen to. I love the Struts, new band. I think
Oh, yeah.
they're
Oh,
absolutely
yeah.
fantastic.
Yep.
Rival Sons,
Oh, yeah.
Jay Buchanan, one of the
Yep.
greatest frontmen of this generation. You know.
Yep.
So there's new stuff that's out there and the old stuff. It's a real potpourri. You can mix it all up. I love Bobby Caldwell, Crack the Sky, John Palermo's band was fantastic as well. And I listened to a lot of older stuff along with the newer stuff. And there's a real similarity right there with the songs, the structure. Production's a little bit different, folks, but the rest of it's about good songs at the end of the day, okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know, speaking to the Beatles, I know you guys have done a couple Beatle covers. Are we going to hear some of that tonight?
Absolutely. It will be playing stuff off the Hard Rock Night record. I'm not going to focus on Beatles songs because there's enough stuff. Has quite an extensive vocabulary of material, and a lot of these fans here that came out to see us a couple years ago at the Tally Ho are going to want to see us at the Salisbury playing those songs.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we'll mix it up, and I think we'll probably do a few songs off that album. Maybe Eleanor Rigby or Jet, perhaps. Maybe we'll do something new we haven't been doing lately, but I put it in a set last night in New Jersey, and everybody went crazy. Sold out show last night at a small little place, 300-seat venue called Dingbats. It was incredible. So much action out there. And all the chicks from The Sopranos came out there, too.
Awesome.
They were looking great, those strippers.
Yeah.
Oh, the beautiful chicken baskets, little 2 scoops of Bill ice cream. I was just so happy.
Yeah.
Great little derriers.
Awesome.
Fine people out there. And so we threw in little help from my friends, and but we didn't do the Ringo version. We did the Joe Cocker version. I think I'm going to do that one tonight, as well as maybe Live and Let Die. I used to play with Adler from Guns N' Roses, and Steven never wanted to do that song in a set. We just focused on the Appetite for Destruction record, but I always wanted to do that one with him, and unfortunately we didn't get to it. We just played that, like I said, the first album of Guns N' Roses. So I got permission from McCartney and from Ringo to do Live and Let Die and put it on a record, which is great. And I think our version is really, it's got some balls. It's heavy. It's like Cheap Trick meets perhaps Jellyfish in an Alley. They fight, and it turns out to be Enough's Enough. It's really good. It's really a good version. The fans tell me every single night. So I don't, not to sound on Moss, but a lot of people come up and they go, man, those Beatles songs you guys are doing are great. Well, it's not hard. It's a challenge to play the songs, but those are great songs. We have to write them. It takes a lot of pressure off us, you know.
Yeah.
But we have our own hits. Tonight you get Fly High Michelle, you get Baby Loves You, you get New Thing. I think it's going to be a real celebration. And the London Choir Boys, same thing. They got a few hit songs from up their sleeve as well. And the band to watch tonight, get here early. You want to see Bad Marriage because it's Tommy Skiach from the great Tesla.
Love them.
And they're playing nothing but great songs the whole time. They look good. Those guys come out, they bring the show. That is the surprise band of this whole tour for sure. They show up there every single, I don't know how they do it because they're smoking more pot than Cheech and Chong. They show up to these gigs, man, and they really can play and sing there. It's a solid 6-piece band, 3 guitars. So Bad Marriage first, and of course the London Choir Boys. I'm playing bass with them. You get a chance to hear all the smash hits that they've had, like 7 o'clock, which MTV played every single day. And then of course Enough's Enough. I think we go on at like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and so it should be it's a real nice little package. I'm just grateful to be out there still working, guys. I am, and it's a real blessing.
Well, dude, we're so happy you came up and chatted with us, and there's no doubt in my mind you like eat it, live it, breathe it, and you are like you are doing the music. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of hustle.
Thank you. I appreciate it. By the way, anybody listening to this, I'm on Dash Radio every single day, 7 days a week. Rudy Sarzo's on our program along with the guitar player from Alice Cooper, Ryan Roxy. Doro Pesh has her own program on there. KK from the old Judas Priest guys, he's on there. Claudia Comedy, she's on along with one of the Playboy Playmates, Carrie Stevens, and Ann Erickson's on there. All these different cool people that they breathe and hail rock and roll, heavy metal, have a program on there. It's called The Monsters of Rock. It's on Dash Radio. You go to dashradio.com, download the app. Guess what? It's free. Sirius XM, love the station, but it's $15 every single month. They have 15, 16 million subscribers. We have 12 million subscribers and growing every single day, and it's 24/7, 365 days a year, A through Z, the whole alphabet of hard rock and heavy metal. We have 95,000 songs. We just purchased the whole thing through Global Music. So it's rock and roll and heavy metal every single day. I'm on 7 days a week. Monsters of Rock on the Dash Radio Network. Check me out. I think you'll love the show. It's not about me, though. It's about the songs and keeping everything going. And there wouldn't be 12 million subscribers plus on that program unless people were still celebrating hard rock and heavy metal. That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being very gracious with your time, sitting in with us, and looking forward to the show tonight.
A lot of fun.
Guys. May the best thing that happened to you last year be the worst thing that happens to you this year. Right. Lou, love you, buddy. Thank you so much, man.
Love you. Appreciate it. My new best friend.
Yeah, you're a great guy, my friend.
And we'll be right back on the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show.